Do you have any objection? I'm going to raise it during communication. We have to give Sharon something on our end that Mark and I will continue with the economic development. Okay, well, if somebody wants to do it, I'm happy to give them a. It's okay. Oh, yeah. Good, good. Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the Ottumwa Board of Health into session. I'd remind you to turn your phones to vibrate or silent, and then let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chris, would you go ahead and take the roll, please?
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Councilmember Strebe.
Here.
Councilmember Berg.
Here.
Councilmember Dalby.
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Approve the minutes from meeting number 8 on May 1st, 2018 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Any corrections? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe.
Yes.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the lot located at Lot 56, Block 2, Harding Park Addition.
Good evening, Jody. We'll
Good
recognize
evening.
you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The picture on the screen is the house that we're recommending you condemn this evening. It was placarded May 30th, 2017 due to extreme dilapidation. The owner is deceased and no action to remove the house has been taken since it was placarded. Therefore, we're recommending condemnation.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, now is the time to step to the microphone. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe.
Yes.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at Lot 56, Block 2, Harding Park Addition. Order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation, approve the condemnation of the structures located at Lot 56, Block 2, Harding Park Addition.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Jody? Seeing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe.
Yes.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the lot located at 1010 West 2nd Street.
Go ahead, Jody.
Thank you, Mayor. 1010 West 2nd Street was placarded June 22nd, 2016. At that time, the house was occupied with no utilities connected. There were extreme unsanitary conditions inside the dwelling, and it was also placarded for lack of a repair. The owner had arranged a couple of times to sell the house or to demolish the house, once in 2016 and then again in 2017, but he hasn't been able to. And after that, he tried to sell the house. He wasn't successful in selling it either. So at this stage, we are recommending condemnation.
This also is a public hearing. If there's anyone that wants to address the council. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe.
Yes.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 1010 West 2nd Street, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 1010 West 2nd Street.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Jody? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I've had some public comments that people are noticing that you're being very assertive about the placarded houses program, and we're happy that you're getting on top of that. Thank you. Is there any other business for the Board of Health? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved. Second.
Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
It is 5:35, and we'll continue to move into the regular city council meeting. We need to take a roll call.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Councilmember Strebe?
Here.
Councilmember Berg?
Here.
Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Mayor Lazio?
Here.
Approve items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 16 on May 1st, 2018, and special meeting number 17 on May 8th, 2018 as presented. Acknowledge April financial report and payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. Appointment of Patricia Essick to the Cemetery Board of Trustees, term to expire 7/1/2024, and appointment of Mark Hansen to the Ottumwa Housing Authority Board, term to expire 11/22/2019. Purchase asphalt for the 2018 calendar year. Purchase rock and sand products for the 2018 calendar year. Resolution number 123, 2018, accepting the work as final and complete for the Grandview Pump Station Improvements Project and authorizing final payment in the amount of $2,956 to WRH Inc. of Amana, Iowa. Resolution number 130, 2018, setting June 19th, 2018, as the date to consider the sale of city-owned property located at Lot 40 in William Craner's Addition, also known as 519 Clarence Street, and rescinding Resolution number 110, 2018, and Resolution number 111, 2018. Resolution number 131, 2018, accepting the work as final and complete for beach renovations Phase 3, RFP 6X Otter Slide Reconstruction Project, and authorizing final payment to Dry Space Inc. of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in the amount of $583. Resolution number 132, 2018, accepting the work as final and complete for the beach renovations Phase 3, RFP 1X Shade Structure Repair Project, and authorizing final payment to Christner Contracting, Inc. of Ottumwa, Iowa, in the amount of $8,179.62. Resolution number 127, 2018, accepting the work as final and complete for the Montag Lane Culvert Project and authorizing final payment to Davis County Excavation of Drakesville, Iowa, in the amount of $1,886.25. Beer and liquor applications for Ottumwa Grocery LLC at 129 and 131 East 2nd Street, Las Palmas Bar and Grill Incorporated, 321 East 2nd Street, Owl's Nest, 116 South Court Street, renewal plus outdoor service area from 6/1 to 6/30, 2018. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
We're up to item C, the approval of tonight's agenda, and I would just make one comment before you entertain that. I'd like to have the prerogative of the chair to move item H11 up to number 1, H1, to accommodate some travel time for one of our presenters. Other than that, I would entertain a motion for approval of tonight's agenda.
Move to approve with that change.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to call on City Administrator Andy Morris, and he will give us a number of updates. So Andy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. On most of the items that are listed here, I'm asking for participation from others. The very first item you see is the website update. As you may or may not already know, Brian McMillan with Neapolitan Labs has been working with staff over the last month or so, quite frankly, putting together the tenets of what the website would look like. I know in our conversations with Brian, he's going to share with us some screenshots. One of the items that both Edward Wilson, Brian, and I have talked about, the pages have been prepared. They've been reviewed by staff. Council will have an opportunity to review those as well. Usually what happens is when staff puts it together, council can make some augmentations, but in the interest of time and money, we just want to make sure in terms of the expense that if there's something you don't like about the product, please let us know as soon as possible. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you to introduce Brian.
Good evening, Brian. We'd love to have you step up and give us an update on your website redesign.
Thank you. Okay, happy to be here tonight. Just have a few slides that I've put a few designs into to take a look at, and also kind of a timeline at the end to talk about next steps in terms of getting you a preview in your hands, talking about training and some other things that will happen between now and when we go live with the new site. So just as a quick reminder, not to harp on this too much, but just going back to kind of the key points of the site very briefly, strong branding, optimized, for desktops, tablets, smartphones, well organized, making sure the content management system is easy to update for the Ottumwa staff, and then making sure we're meeting accessibility standards. The first thing to look at here is the homepage. And again, you'll have a chance to review this on your own devices within the next week or so. But we have more space for Ottumwa photos to be brought into place. I've worked with local photographer Isaac Campbell, who is taking some photos. I know he's done some headshots of all of you, and making sure that we have some really good imagery for the website as a starting place. And then, of course, you'll have the ability, or Katie or other staff will have the ability to change that out over the time. We brought in some top sections to the homepage based on analytics from the current website in terms of what people are clicking on. So if you scroll down the homepage, we're highlighting employment opportunities, the speed camera locations, public notices to bidders, things that users are looking for right now, maybe not finding as easily as they could or we want them to. We also have a lot of real estate for latest news, and our goal here is for you to be able to be inclusive of all department news items to be brought to this page. So our team's been working whenever Katie has a press release that she sends out to media, we've been posting those right to the homepage of the site, right to the news page for each department. So all that content should be there basically going back to mid-April. So when we launch the site, it won't be all news from 2016 or no news at all. Talking about the header a little bit, one thing that we've introduced is an alert module at the top. So we can automatically set it up to display when you have a live city council meeting. So if people go to the website, they can click that link, view it on YouTube. We'll also have the ability there to schedule alerts or post them as they come. If you have a snow emergency in place and want to alert citizens, if you have voting day and want to show the polling or the hours the polls are open, you'll have the capability to do that. The quick links along the top, we want to highlight some key sections of the page, and these are up for discussion too. Nothing's locked into stone here, but the calendar seems important. Frequently asked questions we'll talk about in a few minutes, and then news items, plus quick links to Facebook and YouTube. And we know a lot of people follow the City of Ottumwa on Facebook. YouTube's kind of the home of the council meeting, so that made sense. And then we've really tried to streamline the drop-down navigation. So we'll look at a few example pages, and certainly you can click through more over the next couple of weeks. We're also going to bring in the current weather, temperature, and conditions, plus a site search to the header. Department pages, I think, are really going to be a great feature. You have the ability for featured photos to be up at the top. This is an example of the transit page. You'll have an introduction to the department, and then we'll have some icons along the top that reflect the content that's available within that section. So for transit, you can jump down right to the contact information if you want to reach out to the transit director. There's a map icon, so if you need to go to the transit office or need to visit, the health department or whatever, you can click down and find that data. And then we have gone in and transferred this existing content from the existing site. I think we met with every department head on some level at this point to talk about kind of their needs for the new site. And we've really tried to cleanly organize these pages so it's very easy as a user, whether they're on the desktop, which is what these screenshots are from, or on a mobile device in terms of accessing that content. As you scroll down the page, you see that contact information at the bottom, the interactive map. They can click driving directions to pull up, those if they may need them. The government page, one of the things about the existing site is if you're on a mobile device especially and you try to click on government or departments, you kind of end up with this wonky page that's really difficult to navigate away from. So we've made sure all those primary sections of the navigation have a landing page. So here you see, your guys' information, the mayor's information. Those are the updated headshots in place. And we just have a link onto the city administrator on that page, the term information, contact information, that sort of thing. The services tab is another thing I want to draw attention to just during this brief update. And right now we have a services A to Z page on the website, which is pretty often viewed. So if you want to find, who do you call about building permits, or who do you call about, a health inspection, things like that, you can do that. We've updated this, we've transferred the existing information, but now it's instantly searchable. So if you start typing the word permit, you're going to get basically all the results that match permits, and you'll see a phone number, and then if applicable, a link to that piece of the website that contains more information. City projects, I think, is going to be a useful page for, particularly the Public Works Department, just in terms of citizens of the community keeping up with, what projects are active, what are upcoming, which have been completed. You'll have a page dedicated to that. The opportunity to add in photos or documentation for any specific projects if you want to put some specs out that are PDFs or, details along those lines. And then the opportunity to put in your anticipated start completion dates. So that'll be there. And then the nice thing is you have an easy ability in the back end, whether it be Katie or somebody else in the team, to go in and actually mark a project as completed. So you'll kind of create this little archive on the website of here are things that Ottumwa has done as a city, whether it be sewer projects or roundabouts or things like that, and then get some more information on those projects. Frequently asked questions. This is one thing that I think there's an opportunity to grow over time. We did transition the frequently asked questions from the existing fire department and police department pages of the site, but I think there are opportunities probably for other departments to contribute their own questions. Just like we saw with services, these are fully searchable. So if you start typing speed, for example, you would see the speed camera questions that are part of the FAQ. And you can kind of filter this down. We also bring in on those department landing pages like transit, we'll bring in any frequently asked questions related specifically to that department. So, if transit starts to have a few questions, what hours do the buses operate? How do I call to get a special request? Those type of things, those questions would fall on this overall FAQ page, but also on the individual department page. Then finally, we have a report of concern form. I know this has been, something that's been of interest to several of you that I've talked to. In terms of collecting some basic information, we can look at kind of how this page works, but the goal will be, getting that contact information from members of the community. They'll have the opportunity to select what category their concern's about, and we can work with Andy and talk about what categories should be there, describe their problem, the location of the problem, how they would like a response, if they would like an email, phone call, or maybe they don't need a response. And then those will all be submitted to Katie internally. I know Andy will build out a process in terms of reaching out to the appropriate department heads to respond to those citizens who are making the requests. And then finally, those are kind of the demo slides I wanted to show you in terms of the site development as it's going right now. Basically the rest of this week, my team's just continuing to transfer content and then integrating some additional photos. Like I said, we'll have probably 15 to 20 photos that we'll license of Ottumwa that I think will be really high resolution as a starting point. And then over time, as you guys add new photos of projects or parks or things like that, you can build those out. Next Tuesday, a colleague and I will be at City Hall basically most of the day, doing training with Katie in particular, but also department heads, reviewing their pages. For some departments are pretty much ready to go. Others we're continuing to transfer content for. So we'd like to meet with everyone. Hopefully that next Tuesday is possible. And any of you are welcome to stop by too if you want to talk one-on-one about the website or look through any pages while we're there. And then that following week, our goal is to do a final website review and really work with Andy and Edward to establish, what do we have for a launch plan. We have a target date of June 1st, which is a little bit more aggressive than we were in our proposal. But, we also think that, the opportunity really is here to take the current website, which isn't super great, and launch a website that, is mobile friendly, does have better information, and really, hopefully, is an improvement for the city of Ottumwa.
Any questions for Brian? Well, what we've seen so far looks really good, and appreciate the energy you've put into it. I think it's going to be, for our citizens, a much better user-friendly product that they can access, and both at home and on their mobile. So we'll look forward to you being here, and any councilmen that have any, council people have any questions or comments, be sure you get them to Andy, and we'll get them to Brian.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
Very well. Continuing, Mayor, the next item you see listed is a comprehensive plan. I'm asking Kevin Flanagan, our city planner, to step to the podium and speak a little bit about that. As those of us who are involved in that process remember that firm at Confluence. And Mr. Mayor, and just reiterating what we talked about earlier, Kevin, if you could just put in context where we are in the process, and I believe there's a strategic planning component to it. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Good evening, Kevin, city planner. So you're the one that's going to be leading us on the comprehensive plan. So tell us about it.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had hoped to bring it forward in this meeting and go ahead and award this contract to Confluence, as Andy mentioned, but Joni was gone on vacation, and I didn't want to, how it is when you get back from vacation, my goodness. So we thought we'd go ahead and do it bring it forward in our next meeting for a base fee of $148,500. And we also, which we have budgeted for, and we also have an added fee, as Andy also mentioned, of strategic component, which would be about a half of a day with council and another half day of a planning exercise with staff. So they kind of bring our strategic concepts together for those key 2 to 3 things that we are really going to do for that first 5-year key period of time, in what you might call a short planning period that that are tangible, that we're going to accomplish, that are the bigger items of what we're looking at doing as a city in our various departments. And so we'll be bringing that forward at our next meeting for your approval, hopefully. And if I have any questions about the process, I'd be glad to answer those.
Any questions or comments for Kevin? We will want as much participation as possible from all of our council, city staff, and you'll lead us through that, and so will Confluence.
That's right. We'll all the heads of our commissions and our boards will be involved, of course. Hopefully we can get a lot of citizens involved as well. The more the merrier, on the steering committee and other subcommittees that'll sort of address specific elements of what the plan are, whether it be transportation and infrastructure or community amenities and quality of life components. So
I have a comment.
Sure.
Would you briefly explain why we're required to do this and why we should be doing this? This is $150,000 lick.
Yeah.
It's been my experience in the past that we do these things, throw the book on the shelf and it gathers dust and nothing happens. So would you explain why we really need to do this? And I understand there's some requirements of, if we're going to seek development, that we have to have a comprehensive plan in order?
Yes, in a lot of states throughout the union, you're going to see comprehensive plans being mandatory in order to receive federal funding, state funding, grant funding of any sort or kind. That's not the case in Iowa. It's not mandatory that we do these things in order to receive any kind of additional funding from outside sources or intergovernmental sources. But when you look at planning initiatives, the comprehensive plan being the largest one of those, it's about us coming together as a community, ideally every 10 years. Of course, that's a long planning period. The most actionable portion of that is the first 5 years. And of course, most communities are expected to do updates every 5 years to that comprehensive plan. So there's an ongoing dialogue between the community and the elected leadership in the community, the departments, various departments within the government, over what is our larger goal set. What are the key initiatives we want to undertake? What are the key accomplishments that we want to make in our public infrastructure improvements, as I said earlier, or in major initiatives like what we see the city, various ones of us participating with Legacy Foundation at the city to try to kind of push some of these initiatives forward, like we saw with the River Renaissance Plan, with various improvements included in that, and recreation. Obviously, that's important to us. But as a regional leader, for us particularly, it's important that we all get on the same page and that we, as the leaders of the community, governmental unit, are reflecting the desires of our community. And these kinds of planning initiatives, particularly a comp plan, are the best way to bring us all together to agree together where we want to go as a community, what we want to get done, and what are the most important priorities for us.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add one item that to
Certainly.
maybe add a little bit of clarity then to Councilman Stevens' question. Kevin, as you well know, one of the focal points of a comp plan like this is it holds you to certain projects. I was in a community one time where the city wanted to put in certain trails behind a subdivision, and it was not listed in the comprehensive plan. So from a legal perspective, you've got to be very, very careful about those items you list in the plan, because they can certainly hold you to those.
That's right. I didn't get into that, but the legality of it in a different fashion is the fact that you come out of this with a land use plan or a land use map. And our activities on the planning side of it particularly are tied to that land use, the ideas and the concepts presented in that land use map, as in when we rezone a particular piece of property, as we're doing tonight, for instance. Is that a spot zoning, or is that consistent with the ideas we represented as a community in our long-range planning for the use of the property? And you know, it's reflected in fact to our commitments. Are we budgeting in line with what we say our long-term commitments are, to Andy's point? Or are we ad hoc, you know, getting interrupted by initiatives that just pop up that really the community hasn't focused on? So.
Well, we're looking forward to getting started, and I'm sure you'll keep us on target as we move through it. It's a very long process, but we want to make the most of it.
8 to 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, are you also?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the next one, Kevin, if you would return to the podium, please.
Yeah.
Burn off some more
I ran away.
calories. The next item you see on the agenda is the discussion of the Bridgeview Hotel projects. As some of you have heard, I believe the council has, we've communicated this in the weekly reports. Kevin has reached out to a number of hoteliers, and we are relaunched, maybe a strong word, Kevin, if my memory serves me correctly, at July 27th.
That's true.
July 27th, some additional proposals are to come in. And Mayor, I know you and council have some questions, certainly. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, do you want to make any additional comments? We sent out a number of them, and several of the people indicated they need a little bit more time to get their proposals put together.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, that's correct. We went originally, and I felt like we had a pretty good, I think we all felt like we had a pretty good timeline there, but it does appear that construction has picked up statewide in a way that these guys are really, really busy that are in the industry. It does appear in major urban centers. And I think that may have played into a part of what's going on here. And then we went back out, and we felt like we had a couple of dependable interests. And when we went back out, what we found in working with Greg Hannes, our consultant that helped us put together our study, our hotel study that we went out for this second time around, which I think was a smart initiative for us to undertake. And we had a lot of help there with Melissa Little, who's here tonight, with CVB and with Legacy, looking at this overall issue. But we decided to go out there from the input we were getting from different contractors and give it till July 27th, an ample amount of time, I think, because we have commitments from several of them that, hey, I am interested, want to put in, but need this time. We did have one result from our second turnout with the RFP, but it was late. And so, you know, we're like on a competitive level, this is an okay thing to do, to go back out there. And it looks like we're going to get a lot more attention than we had thought before, maybe 3 to 4. Greg Hannes has been communicating with me through emails with different people he's been speaking with. I've got a couple of those sent to me that I'm conferring with, answering rudimentary questions with as well. So looking very promising for us in this initiative.
Any questions from council? Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, finally, the last item you see is just an item that has been repeated at a couple of different meetings. That's the downtown parking study discussion. That meeting will be held, as you can note behind the iteration there, special council meeting on the 22nd of this month, and that will also obviously is going to be a week from this evening. At that meeting, there will be a discussion. There will be no legislative decisions made at that meeting, and I've had some correspondence with Councilperson Berg in regards to what some of the talking points. This was sent after she had finished her tour of duty at Area 15. Let's be clear on that one. It was sent appropriately, but I think Holly's put together Councilwoman Berg's put together a very good proposal in terms of some talking points that we can discuss. That is all I have, Mayor. If you or other members of the council have questions or comments, feel free to do so.
Any other comments? We'll look forward to that being a very vigorous discussion.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
It's not listed on here as item 5, but I just want to administratively mention to the council that we do have two representatives from the city council who are members of the Ottumwa Economic Development Corporation, and their annual meeting comes up in June, going into July 1st is their fiscal year. And Mark Rowe and I have served in that capacity, and unless you want to make a change, we need to send them a letter saying that we will continue as members of that committee. So if somebody is interested or wants to make a change, let me know. Otherwise, we'll send them a letter saying that Mark will continue. He's serving as vice president of that group right now. Item E, is there anyone in the audience that wants to address an item on the agenda? And I think I see at least one person that probably will want to do that. What we'll do is call you up at the time that item comes up for discussion. Is there anybody else that wants to address an item on the agenda? Okay, then let's move to F.
Bid review and contract award for the asbestos removal, demolition, and water service abandonment at 220 Ottumwa Street. Recommendation, award the contract for asbestos removal, demolition, and water service abandonment to Dan Larson in the amount of $15,300.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening again, Kevin. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city accepted bids for asbestos removal, demolition, water service abandonment on 220 Ottumwa Street until 2 p.m. on May 8th, 2018. 4 bids were received. Dan Larson submitted the best bid. In our opinion, the staff recommends awarding him the contract for $15,300.
Any questions for Kevin? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bid review and award contract for the 2018 RFP number 6, Blake's Branch Box Sewer Access, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. Recommendation, award the contract for 2018 RFP number 6, Blake's Branch Box Sewer Access to DC Concrete and Construction in the amount of $13,850.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Larry. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. An RFP was let to construct a 9x4 by 14.4 concrete access structure into or on top of Blake's Branch Box Sewer. This access is needed to allow cleaning of Blake's Branch Sewer. Once cleared, the box can be surveyed to locate all the sanitary connections. An RFP was let for this work. 2 bids were received and opened on May 9th, 2018 at 2 p.m. The low bidder for the work was DC Concrete and Construction in the amount of $13,850. This will be paid from the sewer fund balance.
Any questions for Larry? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Bid review and award contract for the 2018 RFP number 5, Woodshire Drive PCC pavement patching, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract. Recommendation, award the contract for the 2018 RFP number 5, Woodshire Drive PCC pavement patching to Christie Construction in the amount of $17,775.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
The contractor will be responsible for saw cutting, removing, and disposing of approximately 225 square yards of pavement, placing and furnishing of 8-inch PCC pavement on a 6-inch compacted 3/4-inch granular base. An RFP was let for this work. 4 bids were received and opened on April 25th at 2018 at 2 p.m. The low bidder for the work is Christie Construction in the sum of $17,775.
Any questions for Larry? Seeing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you, Larry.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the sale of city-owned property located at 914 Boone.
Good evening again, Kevin. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sealed bids were accepted until 2 p.m. May 8th, 2018 for the sale of 914 Boone. A placarded home. 2 bids were received. Mr. Relimi submitted the best bid of $10,000. Qatar Relimi is our suggested bid recipient.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody that wants to address this item, seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 139, 2018, accepting the offer and approving the sale of city-owned property located at 914 Boone to Qatar Relimi for the sum of $10,000. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 139, 2018.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Bridgeview Center Power Distribution Improvements Project.
Good evening, Dwight. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe you're all aware of the electrical problems that we have over at the Expo Center, over at the Bridgeview Center. The electrical system in the floor has basically failed. It's not safe to use. So in light of that, this project has been a long time coming. Scott Hallgren, who's in our audience tonight, who's the executive director over at the Bridgeview Center, he's been pushing for this project since his arrival. The work to be done includes electrical improvements that provides improved power distribution throughout the Expo Center of the Bridgeview Center, including new conduit, conductors, and receptacles to replace the failed underground electrical system. We're taking a kind of unique approach to solving this problem. We're going to put everything overhead in the roof truss system. The bids will be received and opened by the city on May 30th, 2018 at 2 p.m. The bid report and bid award recommendation will be presented at the city council meeting on June 5th, 2018, or at a later date as determined by staff. Engineer's opinion of cost is $90,000. Budgeted for the project is $97,000 out of the 2017 CIP. The project would be scheduled to start June 20th, and we would have it completed August 3rd. There would be $200 a day liquidated damages on this project. Now, I put together a few slides that I wanted to show you to give you an idea of what it is that we're dealing with. As you can tell, this is one of the electrical outlets that are in the floor. We pulled the lid back, and you can see that there's water in the outlet system in the box. Here's another one. There's mold and moisture there. You can see the outlets that are there. Everything is all corroded. Nothing is usable in these boxes. There's another one. This one, we had standing water in the box. Now, what we're going to do, this is an electrical plan of the Expo Center, and what you see, those lines are the roof trusses. And you can see where the Expo Hall is divided up into Hall A, Hall B, and Hall C. Each hall will have 2 lines of outlets up in the trusses. Now, as they come down into the dock area, these 2 panels, right, these 2 panels right there is where all the electrical is for the underground system. We're going to be bringing the conduits and everything in from the top while the underground had come in from below. And then once everything is hooked up, we will remove the conduit and the wiring from the underground system. Whoops. All right, this is a showing of the roof truss. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be running our conduit through the middle of the truss. So that still leaves the Bridgeview staff the opportunity to be able to use the top of the roof truss and the bottom of the roof truss for whatever thing that they need to stage for the different venues that come in. Each one of these, that box mounting detail, you can see that there's 3 of those in each truss. There's a quad receptacle where they'll be able to plug in any auxiliary lighting that they need. And then that big box is electrical receptacle that will accept an extension cord that will drop down to the floor. And then on the floor, while it's not part of the project, but we hope to purchase these bento boxes at some point in time. These will, you can see on the side there where the extension cord can be plugged in, and there's 6 duplexes for each box, and that'll allow the electrical to be distributed to all the different vendors that are on the floor in that immediate area. There are 18 floor boxes. There'll be 18 drops, and this isn't by any means anything new to the industry. Scott can tell you that there are a number of venues out there that already have the power coming down from the ceiling. So we're not reinventing the wheel by any means on this. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody that wants to address this from the audience, now is your chance. Okay, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 74, 2018, approving the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Bridgeview Center Power Distribution Improvements Project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 74, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 115, 2018, assessing delinquent refuse collection fees on property taxes.
We're going to move.
My bad.
That's all right.
Resolution number 137, 2018, approving the professional services agreement between the City of Ottumwa and Veenstra and Kim Incorporated for the Blake's Branch Sewer Separation Preliminary Design Services. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 137, 2018.
Okay. Good evening, Larry. You have the floor. Well, we probably.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Thank you,
Second.
Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Victor. Now you can have the floor. And introduce your guest.
Of course, most of you know Ted Pacer with V&K. He's been with us throughout the whole separation process. We had a work session earlier that kind of outlined how he was going to divide the Phase 8 project. I'll just go through and do the regulatory stuff, and then we'll just have a few brief words from Ted. The agreement provides for preliminary design services to evaluate and develop a concept plan and cost estimate for construction of a separate sanitary sewer adjacent to the Blake's Branch Combined Sewer System box. The information from the preliminary concept plan and cost estimate will be used for applying for a State of Iowa Department of Natural Resources State Revolving Loan, also known as the SRF program. The planning and design loan is a zero-cost loan that we'll go into more when we actually apply for that. The contract to do this work is a not to exceed $42,000, and then I'll let Ted kind of talk a little bit on the project itself.
Evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. Good to talk to you again. What comes to mind is the old song, "It's been a long, long journey," and it has. We are under a compliance order, IDNR, EPA, to separate our sewers. As you're well aware, this has been going on for a goodly amount of time. I've been working for you since 2004, and I've really enjoyed it. I appreciate you moving me up in the agenda because where I go to tomorrow, and actually tonight, is the Quad Cities, where we're preparing for an all-day meeting next Monday with the DNR about their permit and some of the things that are going to come out of that. I've been telling Larry that they have some promise for Ottumwa also. So that's kind of my life anymore. What we're going to do is the preliminary engineering, as we talked about in the work session. There's a variety of things, including how we're going to finance the project, how we're going to phase the project. If you recall, Blake's Branch, not only what you would call phase 8, but also it implies and impacts phase 9, which goes all the way to the airport. And your planning study, of course, will address that. So these are some of the things that some of the numbers are: about 80,000 foot of pipe eventually, 230 blocks of paving. The compliance schedule is somewhere around 2025, which seems like a long time away, but in reality, because of the magnitude of the project, it's not that far away. We've talked to Finance Director Jay about how we're going to finance it, what we might use in terms of local option sales tax, TIF, and others. And also, as I've been trying to encourage you folks, that as the federal government sorts itself out, there may well be opportunity for grants. And so all of those sort of things we offer as a service, and I really enjoy doing that. So I just wanted to let you know that we certainly appreciate your confidence and your patience and sometimes. But for me, this has been a great project, both professionally and personally, and I'd be glad to answer any questions about it. But it's phase 1 is primarily along Main Street to the wastewater plant. And phase 2, we start working up the spine of Blake's Branch. Phase 3 and 4, we get into the small sewers and some of the small blocks off of Blake's Branch. But happy to answer any questions, and thank you for the work, assuming you pass it.
Well, I think it was good that you did visit with the individual council to give them a detailed review of the project. It's a major undertaking. Are there any questions or comments? Most of you, I think, had some good questions when we met. Okay. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Larry. We have a motion duly made and seconded, so if there's no questions, we'll take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Now let's go back to number 1.
Resolution number 115, 2018, assessing delinquent refuse collection fees on property taxes. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 115, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Hi, Bob. You have the floor.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Honor. It's that time of year again to assess delinquent refuse collection fees, and the next resolution is for the delinquent sewer fees. Back in 1992, the city approved mandatory refuse collection. We have three properties with delinquent fees, a total of $671.55, and they each include a $25 admin fee for the paperwork and things like that. We've been placing these on property taxes, and it's been a fairly effective tool in collecting these.
Any questions for Bob? Okay, hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 116, 2018, assessing delinquent sewer collection fees on property taxes. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 116, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have about a dozen residents that we bill sewer fees that are not connected to city water. And this resolution allows the delinquent fees to be assessed on property taxes. We have two properties with the delinquent sewer fees totaling $1,025.64 plus $25 in admin fees for each.
Any questions for Bob? Okay, Take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Resolution number 126, 2018, awarding the contract for the sidewalk drop and detectable warning installation project 2018 to TK Concrete Incorporated. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 126, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Good evening, Larry. Go ahead.
This is the seventh contract and consists of the installation of sidewalk drops and detectable warnings at various locations throughout the city of Ottumwa. The completion of these sidewalk drops and detectable warnings will be a step towards compliance of our ADA transition plan. The transition plan was approved by council on August 7th, 2012. The city-owned and maintained intersections are one portion of the ADA requirements. The overall project was estimated at the time of $1,280,000 and is budgeted for $120,000 each year until completed. Bids were received and opened by the city of Ottumwa on April 25th, 2018 at 2 p.m. 2 bids were received. The low bidder is TK Concrete, Inc., of Pella, Iowa, in the amount of $96,250. And then for your reference, we show the previous contracts to date.
Any questions for Larry? Seeing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 128, 2018, appointing Bankers Trust Company of Des Moines, Iowa to serve as paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent, approving the paying agent and bond registrar and transfer agent agreement. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 128, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Bob. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, this resolution and the next resolution are tidying up the paperwork for the bond sale that we did last week. Bankers Trust is appointed, we're appointing them as the paying agent, bond registrar. They do all the bonds for us, have ever since we've been doing this. They've served in this capacity for all the security issues for the city of Ottumwa. We'll be finishing this up here. Then we will sign all the paper Friday, and then we'll receive the final bond payment on June 5th, I believe.
Any questions for Bob? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 129, 2018, authorizing and providing for the issuance of 1.5 million general obligation bonds, Series 2018, and levying a tax to pay said bonds. Approval of the tax exemption certificate and continuing disclosure certificate. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 129, 2018.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, this is paperwork that the approvals that are required to finish up the issuance of the GO bonds. Just a reminder, the bonds will be used to finance the beach renovation, housing demolition, the airport runway construction, time clock update, computer updates, and phone system projects.
Any questions for Bob? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 125, 2018, authorizing the mayor to sign the contract for CDBG Administration Services Upper Story Housing Project Grant with Area 15 Regional Planning Commission. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 125, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city was recently awarded a $500,000 CDBG grant for rehabilitation of upper story housing in the 300 block of East Main Street. City provided a cash match of $25,000 for this grant, with the private owner of the properties in question to provide the remaining cost match. The contract authorizes our Area 15 RPC to provide grant administration for the cost of fee of $30,000. This cost will be remunerated through grant funding. I'd be glad to answer any questions council may
Questions
have.
for Kevin? They do a good job for us, and it's pretty reasonable.
They do indeed.
Okay, if there's no questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
I abstain.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Resolution number 133, 2018, approving change order number 2 for the beach renovations Phase 2, Contract B, pool filter equipment replacement project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 133, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Gene. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. The City Council approved the contract in the amount of $123,550 to ACO Unlimited of Johnston, Iowa through resolution number 175-2017 on August 15th, 2017 for Contract B pool filters replacement for the beach renovations Phase 2 project. Change order number 1 was approved on October 17th, 2017 for additional inspection and testing of the underground piping for the cost of $9,466.25. Change order number 2 is for replacing pipe flanges and bolts in the surge tank for the kiddie and wave pools for $1,898. So contract D summary is as follows. The revised contract amount is $134,914.25. And the revised contract amount for Phase 2, $687,545.21.
Any questions for Gene? Looking pretty good over there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution number 134, 2018, approving change order number 2 for the beach renovations Phase 2, Contract D, pool recoating project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 134, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Gene.
The City Council approved the contract in the amount of $83,701 to ACO Unlimited of Johnston, Iowa through resolution number 180-2017 on August 15th, 2017 for Contract D pool recoating project for the beach renovations Phase 2 project. Change order number 1 was approved February 6th for anti-entrapment drain grates for the indoor pools for the cost of $6,097. Change order number 2 is for replacing approximately 170 feet of deteriorated caulk joint in the indoor competition pool for $3,541.10, and surface repairs to the wave pool for $507.40 for a total change order amount of $4,048.50. The revised contract amount for Contract D is $93,846.50, and the revised contract amount for Phase 2, $691,593.71.
Any questions for Gene on these projects? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you, Gene.
Resolution number 135, 2018, approved the 2-year lease agreement with the Ottumwa School District for the use of the Beach Ottumwa facilities. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 135, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Gene, are you going to start this?
Yes. The current lease agreement with the Ottumwa School District for the use of the Beach Ottumwa facilities expires on June 30th, 2018. City staff has negotiated with the school district for the rental fees for the use of the facility. This is a 2-year agreement with a built-in cost increase according to the Consumer Price Index. The school district will pay the city the guaranteed sum of $45,000 per year in this agreement. Any hours in excess of 400 hours will be paid at the rate of $100 per hour. The Parks Advisory Board approved the proposed agreement at its May 8th, 2018 meeting, and the school district has approved and signed the lease agreement. A copy of the lease agreement is attached.
Any questions for Gene about this?
I do, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I've got several questions, and I'm glad to see that the relationship between the Beach Ottumwa and the Ottumwa School District is upon another contract. I guess I just have a few questions about the contract, Gene. Is the sum of $45,000 per year the same as, more than, or less than the last contract that we had?
It's exactly the same as the previous contract.
Okay, and how long has the number been at that number?
Since July 1st of 2016.
Okay. And the $100 per hour that are in excess of the 400 hours, is that like a pretty standard competitive number for, or is that something that's gone up, or has that been the same for a while as well?
I think that's a standard competitive number. Now, the first year that the school district used the beach under this contract, they went up to 570 hours because of additional practice time that was requested by some of the coaches.
Okay, great. And then my last question is, how are those hours, how are those logged? Who keeps track of that? And you know, how do we know about those additional hours?
The employee that works in the office next to me tracks those hours on her computer, and the lifeguards at the beach are trained to track those hours, as well as the additional staff. For example, with school district practice times, we know they're going to practice from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. If there's any change in the practice times, you know, we find out about it one way or another.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
This is an important partnership, and I think, you know, this affects, you know, other decisions that we're going to discuss tonight, and I just wanted some edification on that. So thank you, Gene.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I might just add that City Councilor Joni Keith has really done an exemplary job on this in tying all these pieces together. And I would argue, I think Gene and I would as well, that the lion's share of the credit goes to Ms. Keith for putting together this document for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? If not, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Abstain.
Resolution number 136, 2018, approve the 2-year agreement with Bridgeview Center, Inc. to utilize hotel motel funds to assist in funding the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution 136, 2018.
Move the recommendation presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Joni, you're going to take the lead on this, or is
Actually,
that-
I'm going to handle this one, Matt.
Okay.
I'll just read from the text that's in front of you in the staff summary. The new agreement amends a 10-year agreement with Bridgeview Center, Inc. that expires in June of this year. The original agreement provided a funding formula from the hotel motel tax to be allocated to the Bridgeview Center, Inc. to be used exclusively to partially fund the CVB. Staff is recommending the formula be changed to a flat 35% of the hotel motel tax provided to the Bridgeview Center to assist with the funding of CVB. The hotel motel tax of 5% has been utilized to fund deficits at the beach. It says 5% is higher than that. The Beach Ottumwa, the Bridgeview Center, as well as provide partial funding to CVB. Increasing the share of CVB would result in funding of these other two entities through the general fund, which will result in additional deficits. After reviewing the budget, anticipated cost, the general fund strongly recommends the funding stay at this 35% level. In the event CVB becomes its own separate non-profit entity and meets the disbursement requirements of the hotel motel tax, the agreement could be assigned directly to CVB with the agreement of the Bridgeview Center, Inc. This is a 2-year agreement with a renewal of an additional 2 years as mutually approved by both parties. The copy of that agreement is attached. And Mr. Mayor, just to let you and council and the rest of the staff know, that contract at present is on a 5-year continuum. We had the discussion, Ms. Keith and I had the discussion about putting this at a 2-year agreement because 3 of the council members said that their feeling was they wanted to see it at 2 years. So in abiding with council's desires, that's why it is at the 2-year continuum at this point.
Okay. Following our procedure at this point, Andy, if you would like to step to the microphone and introduce yourself, you indicated you wanted to address this item.
That's correct, Your Honor. Good evening. Before I start, I do have a brief handout. May I distribute these handouts? Thanks. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name, for those of you who have not met me yet, is Andrew Wartenberg. I am the new Executive Director of the CVB. What I would like to do is take a couple minutes and bring you up to speed on some of the new marketing and sales initiatives that I'm projecting and I want to put in place for the next year. I just want to continue on the great work that my predecessor, Melissa Little, has done. I've been on the job now for 2 weeks, and I have some ideas I want to share with you. Initiative number one is, I think my main first priority is to increase our group meeting and convention business. We have one of the finest facilities in the state of Iowa here, and I would like to see it full. Now, how are we going to accomplish this? What I've been able to find out or be able to determine is right now we are reaching about 35 to 40% of all meeting event planners in the state and in the region. So number one, I'd like to expand that. Number two, if you viewed our website, we do not have a strong group presence on our website. That will be revised. Number three, we need to sell, not just market this city. And that would include constructing a group PowerPoint, which I will be doing over the next few weeks. And also, what I will be doing is getting out in the field and talking to meeting planners, event planners. We'll start in major markets in Iowa and Des Moines, in Quad Cities, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids as well. I also want to institute what I'm calling the Ottumwa All-Star Program. This is a very interesting program that's been done by CVBs throughout the country. And basically what it does is it goes to the community and says, if you have or are a member of a group, a function of some time, go to your group and advocate for your group to have their next meeting in Ottumwa. It's a very simple program. It does not cost a lot, and it's also very successful. And if they do that, we will develop some reward for them. And finally, one thing we have not done in the past is we need to bring meeting planners here on a 1 to 2 day fam trip and let them see not only our facility here, but let them see our city and let them see what we can do. So that's initiative number one. Initiative number two is I would like to increase our leisure business. My discussions with hoteliers in the community have told me that where we really need to focus is on weekend stays. Occupancy, maybe 70%. Where we're falling short is on the weekends right now. Members of the council, Mr. Mayor, understand that I believe that we can't just market Ottumwa, we have to sell it. And that includes developing promotions to get folks to come here. And you can see I'm going to develop a fall promotion, which I hope to have in place probably by August 1st. And basically what this promotion will do, we're calling it Let Us Surprise You Dollars. And basically it'll be a way when people come and check in on the weekends, it'll be an incentive for them to patronize local businesses. I think it's really, really important as I start my efforts here that the business community is involved, engaged in helping us sell this destination right here. So that's my second initiative right there. Number three is do what we can to help market and sell the beach. I'm very happy to say that Gene and I had a really good meeting yesterday, and we identified 3 things right away that we can do and put in place, and we've agreed to do. Number one is Gene has a wonderful facility. The beach is a wonderful event facility. We're going to add an events tab to the website right there. Okay. Number two, we already have in place, I don't know if everyone's seen it, just a tremendous video on the beach. We are going to embed that into the website. And number three, I think this is probably the most important. We are going to enhance and upgrade our social media posts that Jean and I have talked about. I actually met with Jean's marketing person today, and she's very excited about this. I'm going to go over next week. Basically, what we want to do is if there's any negative perceptions about the beach, and sort of reinvent and be more proactive in our social media posts about marketing the beach. So these are 3 things that we've agreed that we're going to do right away. Number 4 is, this is very important. I want to enhance and improve our social media and our digital presence. If you look at our Facebook post, I think Amber in our office has done a fantastic job of keeping people informed of events. But what I would like to do is make our social media posts more proactive, more graphic. And in addition to just talking about what's happening in Ottumwa, talk about why people would want to visit here and encourage our followers to share. The same with our email blast. Right now, our email blasts go to approximately 1,000 people. And what they do is they talk about what's happening, very important. But you know what? Email blasts can also be used to talk about why people want to visit us. So my goal, and again, this is something we can do with very minimal cost, is to expand that 1,000 people to about 2,500 and to include travel professionals throughout not only Iowa, but in major markets, Minneapolis, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, within a 3 to 4 hour radius, and start having not just informational email blasts, but selling email blasts. Okay, next thing on digital is our website. I have already met with Hill Productions, who developed our initial website. If you have looked at our website, it is an adequate website. I will be very frank. But I have formed a website committee right now. Our website has to engage people. Our website has to be experiential. Our website should not simply list businesses. Our website needs to be more graphic. So our committee is going to look at this. And I will tell you that the redesign of our website is not a small project. I estimate that the cost of this will be between $5,000 and $7,500. Number 5, regional marketing. I think this is something that we have not done in the past. I spent on Sunday exploring the area. As you all know, I'm new to the community. I went to some other communities, Fairfield, Pella, down south a little bit, west a little bit, got lost a couple times. But there are amazing attractions, and I don't think we've capitalized on the fact that we can bundle these attractions together and take a regional approach to selling this destination. And hopefully using Ottumwa as a base, so we get the room nights right there. I'm going to reach out to the Oskaloosa Area Chamber, Visit Pella, Davis County, Fairfield CVB. You may have seen, if you've ever been or looked at travel ads, you'll see what I have down here, trail marketing, a branded trail. A lot of regions do this. If we come up with a trail concept, whatever it may be, and also we can share social media posts. Again, we have great resources, not just in Ottumwa, but outside of the area. Number 6, and I think this is probably the most important thing here for me right here, is what I call customer retention and community engagement. We had a customer service training program today. We had an excellent trainer in there. We had excellent attendance. One thing that did bother me about it was only about 20% of the attendees were from what we can term the hospitality industry, our restaurants, our hotels. What I want to do, and I've talked with a lot of folks about this, I want to take our customer service one step farther and create what's called destination advocacy training. And basically what it does, it's a training that integrates not only providing strong engagement, strong customer service, but at the same time, advocating the destination. The good news about this, we don't have to hire someone because I've already developed this program and it's ready to go. Number 7, we have some fantastic events here. Again, Melissa has worked very hard on the Major League Eating Contest that's come here. This is a circuit event, as you all know, but it is my belief, and I think a lot of you are in agreement with me, that we need a signature event. I have also formed a committee to brainstorm and determine what that event will be. I think there are certain criteria we have to have with this event. Number one, it's not a circuit-based event that one year they come, one year they don't. It's our event. It's number two, it has to garner national media attention. And number three, of course, it has to meet community financial requirements. These are some of the things that I would like to put in place. As I said, I've been on the job for 2 weeks. I've met with over 40 members of the community, including a lot of folks in this room here. And I've gotten some really great input on how we can make Ottumwa a destination that visitors want to come to. You know, I believe that the steps that I've put down here will greatly help this process and help us move towards that goal. Again, this is not about just marketing. It's about me getting out and selling. Quite obviously, initiatives cost money. We all know that. Number one. Number two, we all know we are not operating in a vacuum. It's a extremely competitive environment we're operating in. And number three, remember that the travel industry, as we all know, is constantly changing, and we have to be able to change with it. Subsequently, I think I have some very, very strong initiatives here. I think we have an absolutely amazing product to sell, but I hereby request that we reconsider the 35%, and we hereby request that 40% go to the CVB from the hotel tax. Thank you. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Okay, council, we have a motion on the floor, made and seconded, to accept the staff recommendation. What's your pleasure at this point? Any discussion? Go ahead, Holly.
You know, I know we've had a lot of discussion about this, but I think, you know, I don't want to reiterate the things we've already heard, but I think, you know, the things that are laid out in Andy's plan are fantastic. And like he said, we need the money to be able to make these happen. You know, if we're going to look at reducing our deficit at the beach and the Bridgeview Center, Andy just said exactly how he can, you know, work towards making that happen. And investing in the CVB, I think, invests in reducing those deficits over time. You know, we've looked at, you have to think about also the importance of the Convention and Visitors Bureau to economic development. As he was talking about his advocacy and training program, that's the number one most important thing for economic development in our community. Ensuring that the people at the gas stations and the hotels are saying positive things about our community is what we need to have to recruit business. And I think it's important to, you know, think about that when we're looking at this percentage as well. And, you know, this last year, the Bridgeview Center and the CVB board voted to end up paying Bridgeview Center $4,200 out of the CVB budget back to Bridgeview Center's budget for rent. So not only are we at 35% with this, but we're taking more money away from the CVB to put towards the deficit at the Bridgeview Center. So I agree that, you know, whether it's this year or whether it's next year, after we know where things are financially, we need to look at increasing this percentage.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just have a few comments. I mean, I agree with Councilwoman Berg about that. I think that we should review this annually. I think this is a step in the right direction, you know, moving it from the 10-year agreement to a 2-year agreement. But I think with the initiatives that Mr. Wartenberg just laid forth and the efforts that are being made by the CVB and Bridgeview and the beach and our businesses. I mean, this touches a lot of different aspects of our city. Fundamentally, you know, money coming into our city, we talk about putting people on the tax roll. We talk about acquiring new businesses and industry here. But the other way is, you know, bringing new money into the city by attracting people to visit here and stay here and spend money here and have our own citizens spend money here. Look at our downtown facade improvement programs. Look at our parking study. Look at all the initiatives that as a city, if we connect the dots, are related to making Ottumwa a more attractive place for us to live and for people to visit. So I think with that said, that it's important for us, if we want to say that we want people to come here, that we need to stand behind that and stand behind these people that are working hard to get people here. Finally, when I look at this resolution, it almost occurs to me that there's almost two separate things here. It's approved the 2-year lease agreement with Bridgeview Center to partially fund the Convention Visitors Bureau. So I think that's something that we're all for. But then embedded in the resolution is the 35%. So that seems to me that if you're for the agreement, but you're not for the 35%, then there's sort of two separate things to consider here. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Joni, were you going to make a comment?
The original agreement was based upon a funding formula. And when you work out that formula, I believe Bob Jay's indicated it's been about 35% of whatever is raised through that motel hotel tax. So that number can change, but it's a flat amount. That would give us the opportunity to review in the next 2 years how things are going, what impact we've had on the hotel motel tax, and then look at that. And it's not written in stone. It's something that can be reviewed, but it does allow us to utilize the balance to go toward the deficits at Bridgeview, the deficits at the beach, and then we can reevaluate that down the road. And that's what staff was pretty much looking at. Otherwise, those deficits have to be made up through the general fund. And you know what our deficits are currently, and they don't look like they're going down. They look like they're going up. So that was why staff recommended it. It's kind of status quo for at least the next year or 2 years. You can always bring it back earlier than that if you choose to do that, but that would give us a start and give them a flat fee rather than that formula that was a little bit difficult for people to understand, other than Bob Jay could always thought that was a pretty simple formula. So that was the basis for it. Try to keep our general fund deficit from going up further.
For clarification purposes, and Bob, you check me if I'm wrong, but I think the current hotel motel tax is 7%. It was 5% originally, and then 2% was added in the year 2000. So the actual tax is 7%, which can only be used for the
Correct.
recreational and convention centers. Okay.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you have a motion. You can amend it, you can change it, you can vote it up or vote it down. What's your pleasure? And give me some direction as what you want to do. I think Councilman Strebe hit the nail on the head. You could.
I guess that's what I was getting at. I'm for the agreement. It's a step in the right direction, but I almost feel like there might need to be additional conversations about, what that percentage is, and have some more discussions about it. But that's just my feeling.
Mr. Mayor, to that point, though, and there are two sides of this coin, and that is the discussion we're having this evening. Let's just say, as Councilperson Berg pointed out, that let's say this generates additional revenue. But again, as Ms. Keith pointed out, the item that we have to look into is not simply having some multiplier effect that dials that when they generate additional income, which obviously we want to see, but staff has real concerns about the fact that if, let us say, for example, that you keep that formula at, as we're talking about right now, at 35%. And let's just say, for the sake of discussion, council wants to put a tickler on that it goes up 2% every year. Just do 2% for 1 year. They generate additional income then. What I'm hearing from the folks in the CVB and some of the council members, they want that to go to CVB. I would only draw to your attention those, as Ms. Keith pointed out, the burgeoning deficits not only at the Beach Ottumwa, but in addition to that, at the Bridgeview Center. I'd call to your attention, you may recall from the last packet that I sent out to council, and Bob J can speak to this, the Moody's report, just one item I would want to point out. The good side of this, we retained our 1A rating, but when you look at factors that could lead to a downgrade, and our coverage ratio has shrunk from approximately 22.1% right now, we're in the mid-teens. But there are a couple items that are listed. These are factors, and there's two of them. There's actually four, but I'll just read two of them that, according to the folks at Moody's, have indicated this could lead to a downgrade. One of them is declines in operating reserves and liquidity. And the second, and I would argue most important one, increased support for the events center that pressures the city's general operations. Again, as Ms. Keys pointed out, and Bob J can clarify this, when we get to the point where, irrespective of what that percent is that council wants to take up, what would you do if council decides they want to increase that 2%, and we have a year where the beach has a good year when we lose $150,000. That's actually a good year. What happens if you have, say, 2 years where you're losing $255,000? I think 1 year maybe it was high as $265,000. So I just caution council on that. If you want to increase that rate, just remember there are two coins to every side, and that's the fact that we're still facing sizable systemic deficits.
Let me kind of touch base on that. You talk about if more revenue comes in. That's what this original formula was generated and created for, so that the city would be made whole for what was going on at the time before the hotel motel tax came in place, and then any of these increases for the additional amount, that the CVB would get a share of it. So if you're wanting to do something like that, then there's no sense in even changing the formula. You know, just because it takes a minute to look at it and run a 10 key through it. You know, most seventh graders look at that, they read that, they could come up with that without a bit of a problem. But, you know, we're talking about, you're looking at, based off of $470,000 hotel motel tax budget, 5% is $23,750, so $24,000 ballpark. So for every 5%, that's what it's going to cost the general fund if you increase it. We've run into the situation where, like we've talked about it before through all the budget, we lost $47 million in valuation. Until we see that start to climb up a little, creep up a little bit, just caution you on what you do for down the road. I guess that's about it. Whatever I had it's up there somewhere now.
Okay, so our motion is to accept the 2-year agreement and the 35%. Do you want to keep it that? That's what you can either amend it, you can vote it up or vote it down.
You know, I'm not recommending anything here right now, and I'm not saying we should raise it at this point, but could we review this in 1 year instead of 2 years? What's wrong with that? And if things are rolling along, can we boost it up a little bit? That's one question. You know, to me, it's an investment in the future, and you have to take risks sometimes. We did with Hobby Lobby. We invested, I think it was $300,000 over there, this whole different pot of money, but we know, or pretty sure, that the local option sales tax, the business that brings into Ottumwa, we're going to get paid back in a short period of time, plus the additional real estate tax that we're going to get. It was an investment, and it's going to pay off. So I'm just saying, I understand what Andy's saying. I understand what Holly said, but I think sometimes you have to take a little bit of a risk and invest in the future. And we got to shorten, if we make it 1 year and it's not panning out, why can't we put it back down where it was?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one other item, and I'll turn this back over. And this actually comes from what Melissa Little put together. Goes back to the early March timeframe in terms of a email she sent to me regarding the proposed rate. And there's attached to this is also a proposed contract. There's language, Article 7 of that contract, which reads, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Amendment of contract. The city reserves the right to amend the terms of this contract during the contract year should the financial conditions of the city change. I think that speaks pretty clearly that there is no absolute in this. I think it's fair to say staff is asking whether you do it on a 1 year, a 2 year, or a 5 year continuum. I go back to what was mentioned before. The city's financial condition has to be taken into consideration because otherwise you're looking at reserves.
And also remember, the FY19 budget is in effect. It's been approved and passed. This would, if you increase the dollar amount, it'll change that.
Mark?
So I guess I can't really disagree with what anybody's saying here. We do need to invest in the future of the community. We do need to take risks. I might remind everybody though, and this is going to be a little bit long-winded, so I'm sorry in advance, but we took a very huge risk that directly affects our general fund about 6 months ago when we unanimously, if I remember correctly, voted to spend about $400 and some odd thousand on public safety that wasn't previously budgeted. And to offset that over the last couple of years, again, looking forward, Councilman Strebe, myself, and Administrator Morris, with through the graciousness of VenueWorks, we renegotiated the contract that we had there to draw down the city's portion of what we had to fund to the Bridgeview Center. We've cut funding over the last couple of years to some community entities because we knew with the property tax rollbacks and the devaluation of our properties in Ottumwa, we had to take some moves to protect our general fund. We have cut positions out of the general fund. We cut 2 positions at City Hall. We cut a position in the Parks Department because we knew we wouldn't have the money to cover those positions if we wanted to maintain that A1 credit rating. We have talked about eliminating step increases to staff members in order to protect the general fund. We spent considerable amounts of time during the budget cycle this year going back and forth so we wouldn't have to raise property taxes, so we wouldn't have to cut benefits to the staff that we already have here. So I guess where I'm getting with all of this is, we've done a considerable amount of work to protect the general fund. Right now, we're in a 16-17% range. We're essentially one catastrophe away from being in dire trouble in this community. That one catastrophe could be a rain season that virtually shuts out the beach for the year. And then, couple that with an increase in CVB funding, that could be an absolute train wreck for our general fund, which in turn is going to increase our interest rates with the downgrading of our bond rating. So I'm all for increasing the CVB amount in the future. I'm all for revisiting it in a year. But we have spent 2 years trying to put ourselves in a place where we're protecting our assets for the taxpayer, and we are right on the precipice of being in a position that's not in the best interest of the taxpayer. So to put ourselves further in that position, it doesn't seem like a wise move to me. It doesn't seem like a good move to actually increase the funding from what our average has been over the last several years to CVB, when we've got this other side of the 400-pound gorilla that's coming to attack us. It just does not seem like a good move for us. Now, if the property tax rollbacks get pushed back next year, and it sounds like that's possible since they failed to vote on it this year, that's a great thing for the community. We get the Blackbird project up and rolling, and we can start to see the property tax increases from that. That's a great thing for the community. We can see some of these fantastic initiatives that Andy put forth here. see some of those come to fruition, that's a great thing for the community. And that gives us time to react to this and do some future planning and get our ducks in a row so we can actually make a substantive change in that formula to where it, or not the formula, but the percentage base, to where it actually does some good without hurting the taxpayer base. Because, you know, our first responsibility is fiscal, is taking care of the fiscal side of our community, and this just seems like it's teeter-tottering on being fiscally irresponsible, given all of the challenges that we have going forward, coupled with everything that we've done in the last 2 years to set ourselves up while still going backwards at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Your Honor, I'd make a comment. Seems I'm the
Certainly.
only one that hasn't. I don't want to keep this going on any longer. I agree with, like most every other council member here, everything every council member said. There's points that they say that's exactly right. I would tag on, though, to Councilman Rowe, and what he said is, you know, we've put ourselves in a position where we're going to be okay, but it's taken a lot of work to get there. I know it's given Bob J a few headaches, and it's also given us a few headaches, as long as with Administrator Morris in that group as well. And I don't think any of us up here disagree with seeing that funding and revenue going up later on down the road. Then we can adjust that. Joni and some others have said, you know, we can relook at this every year if we want to. I don't think we have to make a big decision like this tonight. We have put a lot of work in getting ourselves to the position we're in. But I think the important takeaway here is none of us are against looking at this and adjusting it as the revenue, or if the revenue increases. I have no issue with that at all whatsoever. But I would caution tonight on keeping it where we're at 35%, like Councilmember Rose said, for the reasons he stated, and move forward from there. Nothing's written in stone here. It's fluid, just like anything else in a city budget, and we'll have to review it later. But I would be on the side of keeping it at 35%, pending all the cuts and stuff we've had to make.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments?
So can we amend that to be a review in a year?
It's already reviewed.
Right now, it's listed as a two-year
Two-year.
agreement, but subject to modification. If both parties want to sit down and review it in 1 year, we can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the current motion is to pass 136-218 as it stands for a two-year agreement at 35% level. Ready to vote? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
No.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you for the discussion. Let's move on to item number 12.
Resolution number 138, 2018, approving change order number 1 for parking ramp repairs project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 138, 2018.
Is there
Move the
a-
recommendation as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Okay. Go ahead, Dwight.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council approved the contract in the amount of $132,540 to Western Specialty Contractors of Des Moines for parking ramp repairs on February 6, 2018. Change order number 1 is simply finalizing work quantities in the additional amount of $13,710. The project is substantially complete. The parkers have returned, or the permit holders have returned. The revised contract amount is $146,250. Any questions?
Any questions for Dwight? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3142, 2018, amending the municipal code of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by changing the zoning classification on certain property located between Rochester and Bonita from R1 to R4 in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa. Recommendation, pass and adopt ordinance number 3142, 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Your Honor. As we mentioned in our prior readings, we're looking at a move from an R1 to an R4 for a project estimated at about 52 units, most likely with a market rate units, I should say, most likely with a emphasis on senior housing. But I would entertain any questions that members have.
Any questions for Kevin? Third reading, we should be pretty well accepted by now, but
great project.
Okay. No questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item J, just a couple of comments real quick. I want to first of all thank Councilman Matt Delby for filling in as Mayor Pro Tem while I was out of state. Appreciate that, Matt. I would also ask maybe Larry Seals and Andy to make some comments about, we've had a number of comments made to us about the construction on the corner of Jefferson and Main with timing and how that's affected businesses. And I think it might be appropriate just for some information. Anything you can add to people's information about that particular intersection, and the weather that we had this week just put us behind again.
Thanks, Mayor, for the question. Well, internally, we've had discussions of some of the things that you normally encounter during construction when you're going through a corridor that was originally put in 1880. The brick sewer, not an excuse. They don't necessarily lay them in a straight alignment. It was about 1.5 feet higher than anticipated. The result, or the ending result, was that we had to do some cast-in-place structures instead of precast. That delays the project 3 or 4 days in itself right there by the time you form, cast, cure, and then put a top on it, along with change alignments of existing or their new basins that were installed during the project. We had to change the alignment of the pipe in order to get the structures to drain. We run into a 6-inch high pressure gas main that was higher than anticipated. There's certain things that you do when you do your design. You don't pothole every pipe and every utility. It's kind of a balancing act of how much do you spend up front on your planning and design. Do you try to shoot for 12% of your project cost, or do you end up with 30%? Sometimes we save money, sometimes it costs us money in time. The other thing that has a fairly significant impact once we do hit a little bit of rain is the fact that the intersection is basically at the low point for 3 of the intersecting streets. All the water, or the majority of the water, off the bridge off of Jefferson that comes down from 2nd on down, along with on Main. It had a limited storm system in the existing street, all dumps right on the grade. They had finished it. They were in the testing as far as density test. This morning, I've got some really good pictures that if I'd have known I was going to do that, we'd have done a little presentation. It was basically a pond. They were down there at 2:30 still using a sump pump to drain that area to try to reduce the impact of the water on the sub base. So it just seems like, we've hit multiple things. Also, there was a rail system from the old trolley system. That was the first thing that we encountered. So we've encountered a lot of obstacles.
Very good explanation, Larry. And I think that's what I was hoping you would cover. Again, we have no control over the weather, and I did go down this morning and look at that ponding that was there, and they had just compacted the dirt yesterday, and we're hoping they could do some other forming, and it's really frustrating, and it's frustrating for the crew. They can't do anything either. It's frustrating for us because we have working days that we want them to get completed, and it's frustrating for our downtown business owners too. So I just appreciate your additional explanation and trying to let the businesses know we're doing everything within our ability to get that completed, but we want to do it right and according to standards, not cut any corners. So thank you for that explanation. Item K on our agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to address an item not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Step up to the microphone, give us your name.
Yeah, I'm Harold Whitney, and I'm here about infrasonic noise pollution. You talk about wanting people to come to your town. You don't have an ordinance which covers this, okay? People my age, when you get to age 50 to 59, you start being able to hear lower sound. That's part of this deal. The other part of it is that I got a neighbor that generates it because he's mad at me right now. And the police can't do anything for me because there's no law against it. From what I understand, it's below 20 hertz, okay? I've got a cell phone app that I also can't use, which shows it's been on for the last 5 days since I got the cell phone app. I've got it where he plays it continuously. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a blast of it. 4 o'clock, I get a blast of it, so I can't stay in my house anymore. And I would like you to perhaps take a good look at the noise ordinance thing and include the stuff that's for infrasonic wave. Below hearing, that's what infrasonic means, by the way.
Okay.
And I don't know. I got a bunch of information, but I doubt if you guys will be able to read it all. If you'd like to, I can.
Why don't you leave it with one of our public works or engineering staff? We can take a look at it and see what makes sense. And Joni certainly can look at it.
I've given a copy to the engineering, I think it was, the engineering guy, or zoning guy. I give him a copy of all this stuff.
Okay.
And the only thing it might not be there is the app for where you can find it. You can actually buy one for $400, or you can get an app off from internet for your smartphone if you got an Android, and it tells the GPS where it's at, what time it happens, what the frequency is, and what the dB level is. So you got all that on your phone for nothing. It doesn't come with any commercials either. And I really don't know a whole lot about talking to you guys, but I'm just telling you, this is happening all over town. I've heard other people talking about it, where people are using this to, get back at people they don't like. Okay, so I'm not the only person it's happening with, but anybody visiting your town, our town, who's going to be disturbed by this, are not going to come back. I can guarantee you. I mean, I can't stand to be in my house even. And the longer you hear this, the more it has effects on you, like it's psychological and philosophical or psychological and, the body. It messes with the heart, causes the heart rhythms to get weirded out, and you end up with a heart problem. It's been going on for 4 months. It was 2 months before I figured out what it was.
Okay.
And it's like I dread going back to my house. I mean, this is probably personal stuff you guys don't need to hear, but I'm just telling you, I wish you could have a way of being able to control it, but people are going to be using it against others. And there's an app on the internet where you can learn how to make one or how to buy them. The generators also.
Well, you'll be happy to know, and I think Mr. Morris can attest that we are looking at a sustainability process, and in that is noise pollution. So we will be looking at that as we go forward. So appreciate your comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Strebe?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
I have 7:16. Thank you all and good night.